Hi, everyone. Excuse me, that was a real one. Number one Marmaduke fan here. So I've been Jordan D. Petersoning my life, and pretty much it just means cleaning my room and letting go of all the art junk I've accumulated. I had some art teacher at some point give me this list of rules for artists, and one of the rules was save everything. It might be useful for art. And since I was too much of a straight arrow who cared about uh, making teacher happy, I took that to heart. So pretty much throughout art school, I uh, became a semi hoarder to the point where even before I listened to Jordan B. Peterson, I kind of recognized I had to fix this and let go of all this junk that I accumulated to turn into art and probably never was going to. So, as part of the process of cleaning my room, I'm getting rid of old class notes, and some of it's nuts. I've made private a few videos that were my old crazy sketchbooks from SJW art school phase, and so sometimes I'll just laugh and make fun of how stupid I was in college. But I found an interesting little note, and the problem is it's for an idea that's so massive it would take massive funding, probably from a major historical institution, to make it happen. But here it goes. I'm just throwing this out as something that would be interesting to see exist. So I wrote brainstorm. Instead of reading a comic in a contextual book, what if we read recreations of the Daily Comics page through history? So the idea is you would get a chance to walk through history, seeing old comics as they were created pretty much from the Yellow Kid on. Uh, this gets at my love for old comic strips, old daily comic strips, because I think it's pretty clear that the American comic book arose out of the absolutely insane popularity that newspaper comic strips used to have, and a lot of these still have staying power. I think it's Floyd Gottfredson or something. The daily comic strip with Mickey Mouse that kicks butt. EC Cigars Popeye is incredible, and it is hilarious, and it's very stiff and constrained art because of how tiny they it's larger than the space they have in today's comic strips, but compared to an American comic book, they have a very tiny little window to work in. So they have to use very limited lines to make it work. So read EC Cigars Popeye. I'm probably going to do a review of those Treasury editions later. Read the Saga of Marigold for just a great old example of what I like about these old comics is from the 30s and 40s and so is how sentimental some of them are and how oddly some of them are worded. The people are, people have always been silly. People have always been fun. People in 1940 would have similar political arguments that we would have today, and they'd have similar hopes and dreams and observations about the opposite sex. So that's one way you can connect with them. But then they also had a different culture and history, which I think makes them sound a little odd to the contemporary ear, and there's something just utterly charming about that. So I think the whole point of this note was I wish I could read every old comic strip there ever was on some web page, and then you could go through history on the internet, seeing not just Popeye, but seeing every comic strip that appeared alongside Popeye on the same day in history back in the 50s or the 40s, what have you. So that's the idea. It's a pipe dream. It could only happen with maybe massive funding and massive research. A lot of these comics are probably gone forever. If there was a flood and the art got destroyed and no one cared about it, then it's probably gone. So it's probably only the well loved and well remembered comics like Peanuts and Popeye that are well preserved for us. And microfilm is garbage to try to go read old comic strips. I love old comic strips, but I'm not patient enough to try to lose my eyesight reading a bunch of crummy old technology from the 80s that was used to preserve old library newspaper collections. Anyway, so that's just the idea, and I'm not going to drag this on. So if that sounds interesting to you, though, have a comment on, I don't know, what would it take practically to make this absolutely insanely expensive and time laborious project come to life? I think this came from a time period where I was reading Scott McCloud, so my brain was buzzing with all of these little ideas about, oh, wouldn't it be cool to do this with comics on the internet? And wouldn't it be cool to do that? But of all the ones that I've read in my notes, this is the one that I look at and say, actually, yeah, I would be interested to read that as someone interested in the history of comics. That sounds like a insane idea, which might actually have something worthwhile for it if it could actually exist. So chat with me in the comments if you have any thoughts on the idea. Number one Marmaduke fan. Love you guys. Catch you later.